We are about to view footage filmed by Mary and Ingeborg Nystrom of Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the time of their involvement in the Save the Children Federation. Students are meeting to decide if they can support less fortunate children, and there are also scenes from the Federation's offices and facilities. The Save the Children Fund was founded in London, England on April 15, 1919 by Eglantyne Jebb and her sister Dorothy Buxton as an effort to alleviate starvation of children in Germany and Austria-Hungary during the Allied blockade in World War I. At a meeting in London's Royal Albert Hall in May 1919, the fund was publicly established to raise money and to provide relief to children suffering the effects of war. In December 1919, Pope Benedict XV publicly announced his support for Save the Children. He declared December 28 Innocents' Day. The first branch opened in Fife, Scotland in 1919. A counterpart, Rädda Barnen, was founded later that year in Sweden, and together with a number of other organizations, they founded the International Save the Children Union in Geneva on January 6, 1920. Jebb also built excellent relationships with the Red Cross. Jebb used many new groundbreaking fundraising techniques, making Save the Children the first charity in the United Kingdom to use page-led newspaper advertisements. Jebb contracted doctors, lawyers, and other professionals in order to devise mass advertisement campaigns. In 1920, Save the Children started individual child sponsorship as a way to engage more donors. By the end of the year, Save the Children raised the equivalent to about £8 million in today's money. Due to their efforts, conditions for children in Central Europe were improving. The Russian famine of 1921 made Jebb and Buxton realize that children's rights constantly need to be protected, and Save the Children must become a permanent organization. Their mission was changed to an international effort to preserve child life wherever it is menaced by conditions of economic hardship and distress. To feed and educate thousands of refugees, Save the Children created press campaigns, promotional movies, and feeding centers in Russia and Turkey. They began to work with the Russian Famine and Relief Fund and Nansen, which resulted in recognition by the League of Nations. Although Russia was largely closed off to international relief and aid, Save the Children persuaded Soviet authorities to let them have a ground presence. The Daily Express newspaper criticized the fund's work, denying the severity of the situation and claiming the fund should be helping their own people before helping Russia. The charity responded with increased publicity about the famine, showing images of starving children and mass graves. The campaign ran as a national appeal, eventually allowing the organization to charter the SS Torcello to ship 600 tons of relief supplies to Russia. Over 157 million rations were given out, saving nearly 300,000 children. Jebb created an initial draft for what would become the UN Declaration of the Rights of the Child in 1923. The 5 points she suggested were adopted by the League of Nations in 1924 as the direction of Geneva. 1932, New York businessman John Voris became the first director of International Save the Children Fund of America. His immediate goal was to help the children and families struggling during the Great Depression in Appalachia. 1933, in Tennessee, the program A Bushel and a Peck helps families start home gardens. 1937, Bushel and a Peck program for home gardening and canning expands to Kentucky. 1938, International Save the Children Fund of America becomes Save the Children Federation. Hot lunch programs are provided in 9 states. 1941 Bundle Days campaign sends clothing to European children affected by World War II. 1942, 250,000 Appalachian children receive clothing, shoes, and books. 1948, the United Nations adopts the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 1951, Korean children receive food, clothing, and school supplies. 1954, $150 donation sponsor European children. $96 sponsors an American child. In Europe, some countries believe paid sponsorship undermines self-reliance. First Lady Mimi Eisenhower promotes dolls for girls in poor communities. 1957, new headquarters open in Norwalk, Connecticut. 1959, expansion to the Middle East with education and farming programs. The UN General Assembly alters Jebb's initial criteria in order to produce the non-binding Declaration of the Rights of the Child. 1963, Colombia, South America. 1966, Vietnam, Cherokee and Hopi tribal children. 1968, majority of sponsored children are from Native American tribes. 1969, Tanzania, Africa. 1972, community development programs in Dominican Republic. 1973, U.S. Agency for International Development awards a grant. 1974, headquarters is destroyed by fire. 1978, first direct response TV advertisement. 1979, International Save the Children Alliance. 1981, Senator Chris Dodd's hearings on children's needs and rights. 1985, there are 100,000 sponsor members. 1989, UN General Assembly adopts conventions on the rights of the child. In September 1990, it became international law. 1991, operations in 20 U.S. states and 37 countries. 1993, Children and War program expands to Bosnia. The children's rights-based approach, originated by Jebb, continues to be an important factor. It was used in a major campaign against the use of child soldiers in Africa. 1994, the Convention on the Rights of the Child is ratified by 154 countries. The convention consists of 54 articles that address the basic human rights that all children are entitled to. The 4 core principles of the convention are non-discrimination, devotion to the best interests of the child, the right to life, survival and development, and a respect for the views of the child. It has been signed into law in nearly every country around the world except Somalia and the United States. 2003, 14 million mothers in India, Mali, and Pakistan are immunized against tetanus. This record of advocacy and action on behalf of children is impressive enough But Save the Children's State of the World's Mothers Report also recognizes the role maternal health plays in child survival. The annual report looks at the lifetime risk of maternal death, under age 5 mortality per 1,000 births, and other statistics. In 2010, the U.S. ranked below Estonia, Latvia, and Croatia due to high rates of maternal and infant mortality, low preschool enrollment, and a particularly weak maternal leave benefit.